Hey all, here are OS Reviews. Today we're taking a closer look at the MeetSummer X1. This is a smart wireless microphone kit that includes left and right microphones so you can do interviews as well as 3D binaural audio pickup so you get more of that surround sound effect, for example, if you're recording two at the same time, maybe clipping it onto each side of your shirt. Otherwise, there's also a middle controller piece that gives you a real-time visualization of how the audio is doing in terms of if it's peaking in the volume or if it's at a appropriate amount. It can record up to 115 decibels in terms of maximum loudness, and also has built-in noise reduction algorithms. So if you're using it for vlogging, it should drown out or at least mute some of the background noises in a cafe or a louder space. Now it's also a wireless mic, so it can connect, for example, using Type-C to your phone, and then the other end will be picking up sound up to a range of 250 meters. You can also plug it into cameras as well. Battery life here is also rated at around 8 hours of continuous usage, and then 24 hours when combined with this battery case that you get in the box, which is very similar in concept to a pair of wireless buds like the Apple AirPods. If you pop these back into the casing, they will give them a quick juice up when on the road. Speaking from my personal experience, microphones built into smartphones tend to be a lot more muffled sounding for some reason when I'm recording outdoors, so this should hopefully provide a lot more depth and resolution in terms of audio pickup if you're using your phone as your primary camcorder. Otherwise, the microphones claim to have 9.7 millimeters, so just like on headphones, the larger the kind of millimeter size, you're technically able to record perhaps a wider soundstage and just have better audio in general. The casing there again having a 1.15-inch OLED touchscreen for controlling some of the basic functions. And inside we have a very fancy looking hard shell case to protect everything when you're on the go. Some extra accessories here include the USB Type-C charging cable, pretty standard stuff, taking about 2.5 hours to fully charge up the battery case if it ever runs out. And you also get a phone adapter cable plus a camera adapter cable. There's also two windscreens which are included for the left and right mics, so it blocks out and muffles a little bit more of extra noise. Ruffling sounds should also be dampened using this kind of sponge-like texture that you can snap over the microphones. And then we also get just a very quick user guide using a 2.4 gigahertz protocol for the wireless transmission. Here's the aforementioned alternative Lightning as well as Type-C plugs that we talked about that you can instead plug in if your phone doesn't have a 3.5 millimeter jack. So again, this is designed to be fully compatible with pretty much any smartphone or camera that is on the market. Again, casing does feel very premium, but it's a little bit on the larger side. For example, here's an average around 6.7-inch smartphone next to it, and you can tell it's going to be a little bit deeper as well. Still fits in fine into a backpack, but it's not the smallest casing, just to note. Regardless, on the inside we have just the X1 microphone itself, another pouch for some of the extra accessories and cables that you can also store. And taking just a closer look here, it does have a nice texture on the top with their logo. The polycarbonate build here feels very sturdy, but again, don't expect it to be quite as small as actual wireless headphones or buds, for example. Otherwise, we have on the bottom here some soft touch rubber feet to prevent it from sliding around on a surface or desk, and we have just the Type-C port on the back for charging up the battery case. Popping it open, you can see there are LED indicators that will tell you if the stereo mics are charging or not. There's also indication on the battery case that tells you if there's enough juice inside here as well. And once you remove the module, it will instantly begin to power on. And really just within a second or two, you'll be able to get a quick gauge of the connectivity between the left and right sides, as well as how loud they are once it is paired. So a pretty fast boot up process. You don't really have to be waiting around for too long, which is good. They're all held into place magnetically. Again, very similar to like wireless buds, and they're charging using these pogo contacts once it locks into the case. You can tell they have the same design language as the battery case with that interesting, almost carbon fiber like texture going on to the front. And the actual microphone and transmitter are thankfully a lot smaller than the casing there on the outside, so they are still relatively lightweight if you are wearing it on your shirt, for example. If it's green, it means it's been successfully paired, and you can now see the visualization in real time. As we're speaking into one of them, you'll see the grain and the volume there start to spike, which is pretty neat. And also we have just that kind of mic in the middle there for picking up sound, which you can attach the aforementioned windshield if desired, and voila, it will look something like this. A little bit more fuzzy and cute, but pretty effective in blocking out just a little bit of some of the external rustling noises. On the other side here, we also have the ability to manually turn this on and off, which you can also do just by popping it into the battery case. It will shut down automatically. There's also kind of a wind noise reduction mode that you can tap on using the first key there. Plus there is a USB Type-C port. So if you do not have the battery case with you, you can still charge this thing up. And the power key can also be short pressed to mute the microphone very quickly. There's another 3.5mm headphone jack on the edge for connecting external microphones if for some reason you're not satisfied with the quality of the one built on in, which you shouldn't be since it's very good quality. But let's say you want something a little bit closer to an audio source, you want a further extension microphone, you can plug it in. And the other microphone is exactly the same. Maybe the only thing that might be missing would be perhaps a more obvious label of left and right side, which you can kind of also gauge just using the controller here, and doesn't really matter, I suppose, since you'll have in most cases in interview mode one person on either side, but it is just something to just briefly point out. They're pretty much clones of one another. It also means you can pop them onto either slot for charging. The order doesn't matter. You can charge it here or here, and they will both work. It's not very picky. Now, in terms of the transmitter module, we have also a clip here. And similarly, you also have a Type-C port on the edge for charging if you don't have the battery case with you, a manual power key, and on the bottom here, most importantly, is that I/O port. So snapping these pieces into place, you'll be able to now clamp the other side onto the bottom of your phone and be able to, again, now use this for picking up sound as you are recording. It looks just something like that. Again, using Lightning or Type-C. Alternatively, on the other end, there is the auxiliary output. So you can use the aforementioned cables here to instead plug this into the other end of a camera or some other phone. And there's also a 3.5mm headphone jack, so you can use that to monitor the recording in real time. You can listen to the sound being picked up as you are recording. Now, the 1-inch OLED display, although it's not the largest in the world, is surprisingly bright, very contrast-rich, and it's a capacitive touchscreen that is pretty responsive for simple navigation. Aside from gauging the battery percentage, swiping down, we can go into either a mono recording mode, a stereo recording mode, or a safety channel mode as well, so these can be pretty easily toggled back and forth, and you can also swipe up to go back. Here's another mode selection if you are recording, say, indoors, outdoors, or versus at a noisy condition. This will change the kind of intensity of the noise reduction algorithms on the microphone and some of the gain settings automatically, which is pretty neat. Down below here, again, transmitter settings, you can also, again, increase or decrease the basically sound pickup gain on the microphones there, and manually turn on the noise cancellation function as well using the slider. You can go all the way up to a level of 14, as you can see there, from 0, so you can customize that. Of course, the higher the noise cancellation, it will be pretty effective in blocking out some of the fan noises and some crowd murmurs, but you will also add just a little bit more of digital artifacts to creep into your sound. So with it completely turned off, it's going to be the most quote-unquote audiophile grade recording, since nothing is being processed using the algorithms, but it only works if you are in a more quiet space. But again, good that you can play around with that depending on your surroundings, and you can play with the intensity yourself. Similarly, receiver volume, you can also boost over here as well in terms of if you want it to be louder than reality versus a little bit more quiet. If your microphone is a little too close to a mouth, for example, brightness of this OLED screen can also be further cranked up, as you can tell there. Even though there is no auto mode, it's pretty easy just to slide there. Basic languages, including English and Chinese, can also be set. Kind of reminds me of a smartwatch or a smart band, in fact. Using the gestures, it's pretty intuitive to get around the UI. There's also one more shortcut of dragging upwards. This will allow you to more quickly jump into the noise cancellation, the mute for all audio, so it won't pick up any sound, as well as the mic gain, as 3 kind of hot shortcuts that are more easy to tap into before having to jump into the more advanced settings. All right, so test 1, 2, 3. Right now you're listening to the audio being recorded directly on the MeetSummer X1 microphone. As I'm holding it further away from me, you can hear how the sound pickup will be a little bit less loud versus closer to me, the sound volume increases there. And overall, I think it's very good sounding in terms of the clarity. It's definitely one of the best out of the wireless microphones that you can find on the market. There are often some kind of cheaper variants floating around, but will sound often a lot more tinny as a result. Here's also a quick demo of the one side microphone versus the right side here, back and forth, and also if I'm recording both on at the same time, I'm going to move the microphones around my head, and you can hear how the audio will kind of change as well using that stereo pickup, which is pretty cool, and again, working as expected. It's super simple to set up. Again, there is no complicated companion app or anything that you really have to fiddle around with. Everything is built directly into the touchpad. Again, there is no Wi-Fi, there is no Bluetooth option, and again, just open up the camera app of your smartphone, and audio will be, in most cases, instantly be recorded from this device. The adapters, for the most part, are very tight. They don't feel loose or wobbly at all, which is good. What's also great about this solution is, again, there's a battery pack in the transmitter, so it's not drawing power from your phone, at least as quickly as some of the other budget models which don't have any battery pack built in, and so it saps the phone's battery to do all of the processing, and you end up with reduced battery life. But on here, it's pretty much operating independently. In my testing, after recording for some slightly longer durations of 30 minutes, it also remained fairly cool in terms of thermals, never got too hot or even warm, which is good, so overheating is really not something that you have to worry about either. So that is more or less it as far as our quick review of the MeetSummer X1. Again, a pretty cool wireless microphone kit. It is very well presented with all the adapters that you could possibly need for any camera, phone, regardless of manufacturer, and also that charging case is a pretty nice, thoughtful kind of hybrid that is a concept borrowed from wireless buds, just prolongs the battery endurance when you're on the road. So if you are looking for a slightly more advanced wireless microphone kit to, again, improve the audio pickup experience on any smartphone or camera, you're doing more vlogging, this might be a good idea to consider. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews. You can learn more details if interested in the links down below, but for now that's been our video.